afternoon, Rob. Another episode of our podcast today. How's things going? Friday afternoon?
Very, very busy, Bob. I don't know about you, but very, very busy. You're getting a lot of airline miles, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's crazy this time of year. It's summertime, but it's certainly full into AEP, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about today is what's going on, right? Everyone's getting ready. Had a couple of phone calls. I think certifications may have begun. I'm not sure.
Couple here and there coming out over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, it is getting a little bit insane. I mean, I think we say it every year how it's really Medicare is a 12-month period right now. I mean, we know AEP is a big part of what everybody does, whether it's growing your business, maintaining your business, or otherwise. But the rest of the year, there's always marketing activities to be done, sales to be made, and there's just a ton going on that we want to touch on today here a little bit.
I always tell everybody there's two periods, right? It's AEP and then preparing for the next AEP.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of when do we take a vacation? What's the good couple days out of the year for agents and companies to take vacation?
And the answer is who knows, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we definitely want to jump into how we're preparing for AEP, which of course, the rollouts of the AHIP as well as the carrier trainings have done. I know you knock them out sort of day one just to see what's new and so we can advise our agents. So what are you seeing this year? AHIP, let's start there.
I'll tell you what. They've done a little bit better with AHIP this year. So I would say, and this is just because I've done a lot of them, it's the standard format, right? So you have your 5 modules. If you're a returning user, returning AHIP person, you don't have to take the first 3 modules. You still have to take a 20-question quiz for each one. I still take them all just because, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I still look at all the modules, and I still recommend people doing that. But in terms of the test, the 50-question test that you have to get a 90 to pass, I have found that every question that they ask in the modules, so the 5 modules, basically the first, I would say 40 questions are all direct from your material.
Beautiful.
The other 10 are from prior AHIPs.
Okay.
Or they're brand new.
So they look similar to you. You're recognizing those questions that aren't on the training modules as ones you've taken before.
Yeah. And so they're asking questions. You got to be prepared for the same old things like, your PFFS and those plans that you're not used to seeing. I've seen some different things about the diabetic, so the $35. There's a couple questions on that. Exactly.
So everybody knows that as of recently here, all the plans are going to have the diabetic 35 max built into it. So good for the clients. Obviously, that's going to affect the outcomes when we're running our quoting softwares, comparisons. You're going to see when you're putting in your prescription drugs, how that impacts it. But of course, it's got to be in the formulary.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not that every single plan is going to take every single prescription. So you still got to run them. But good to know, right? They're asking some questions on that, making sure everybody understands the new rules.
Also, I'm sure we're going to get into it, but there is finally some questions about the TPMO rules and regulations.
TPMO, yeah.
Call recording and scope rules. There's some stuff on there about the 12-hour space in between education, sales, and being in the same building, and a lot of the new.
I think
TPM
the word
rules.
is adjacent.
Adjacent, yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of stuff going on, and then of course, I know you've started taking the carrier trainings. I know there's a wide variety. Which ones? I hate to call out, some, but some are a little bit more daunting than others. They sort of ask you, hey, in this plan, in this area, what's this benefit? And then you have other ones, I think everybody should follow the Humana rule, right? The
number
click,
one, my number
click,
one favorite.
Read, click, and do your attestation at the end. So what are you seeing with them this year with the carriers?
They're pretty much pat. Aetna didn't change much. I mean, if you've done their test last year, it's pretty much the same exact one as it is this year.
Sure.
United is basically the same. I will say their ancillary stuff, the stuff that you're not required to take, is always more difficult. So your dual and chronic module is a little tough. It's not terrible. I will say the retail is one of the toughest certifications I've taken. I don't fail test often. That was one I had. I did fail once. out of the 6 tries. So you definitely want to be careful. Make sure you read and study the content guide, because most of it's in the content guide buried somewhere. And obviously, we'll talk a little bit about the IE SNP. That one is also a little difficult. It's not easy, but most, if not all, the materials in that content guide, or what we provide to agents.
Right. And the IE SNP, yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously, since we're talking about the trainings, that is a special request training. There's a little bit of an attestation that you have to do up front. You do have to, of course, be aligned with Pinnacle Financial to even get access to it.
Exclusive.
Exclusive, as we like to say. But you have the attestation up front, special invite loads that training, and then you can delve into it. You're not going to just automatically necessarily see that training right up front.
Yeah. And, to get back on track, I do think some of the regional carriers this year, like I've taken, like Florida Blue can be a little daunting, because what these carriers are doing is they're using, I forget, I don't know if it's Litmus, I forget what carrier they're using that kind of supplies a lot of this, but it's like you have to click, and then you have to wait 10 seconds before you can click again. But then on that page, there's 3 things that you have to click before you can get to the next thing. So before you know it, I mean, you almost have to, hire someone to, just click your mouse to get through it. Because a lot of it's stuff that if you're selling that market, like if you have Florida Blue, you're aware of their plans in kind of their little, what makes them special, right?
No, this is true, and I guess that's why some of those carriers are going that route. They want to make sure that they can differentiate themselves versus the big guys. I guess making sure the agents know the little secret sauce that they have built into their plans. But that's what they do. We got to get through them. You want to sell those plans in those areas. You got to make sure you get those trainings done. AHIP, we can get a discount again this year, right? I mean, everybody should be getting $50 off. Is anybody different than the $50 discount that you've seen so far this year?
No, not unless you're like a Aetna front runner. So if you're a front runner for Aetna, they'll pay for your AHIP. But other than that, everyone's pretty much pat. Okay. And you'll know if you're a front runner, because Aetna will let you know a couple times through email. And typically we will also let you know if you're a front runner.
Right. No, that makes sense. So got to get our trainings done. They're all on their way. If you haven't taken them yet, you have issues, you can always reach out. We can help direct you in that regard. And then it's always, agents, we get asking us, well, which plans do we need to really focus on this year? So we are smack dab in the middle of rollout season. So
that's where half our office is.
I think we have like 4 people in the office today. I'm not sure, but so the rollouts are where the carriers are giving all of the first look information, right? It's here's what our plans are going to look like this year. Not 100%. I think they're still going through that final approval process with CMS, but get a pretty good idea where they're going to have new areas, right? Where are they expanding to? Whether it's their traditional MA plan or is it going to be their D-SNP plan? Where are they going to expand to? So we're getting all those details right now. I think our crew's out at Aetna this week. I was at Molina earlier. We got United Healthcare next week. We have Cigna next week. Some of the other regional plans we're hitting here in locally, Independence Blue Cross, we did here recently. Health Plan Partners, I know I was at last night myself. So we're getting all those details together, and then we'll figure out, right, who's the best plans in everybody's area to make sure we get all their certifications done.
Yeah, I mean, and from what I saw with expansion, there's a lot of expansion this year, between a lot of, not just the small carriers, but the main carriers too. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, a lot of that. And I think some of the stuff we're hearing on the expansion is coming down to star ratings again. So if you haven't seen it, big update on star ratings, probably 30% of all the plans that were 4-star rated are no longer going to be 4-star rated. So a little adjustment there by CMS on the ratings. And what we're hearing from the carriers at these rollouts is really they're pushing the value-based care, right? It's a big part of the star ratings is the preventative stuff, getting to the clients and really addressing their healthcare needs in a much better way, which is where the value-based care is coming into play. And for those of you that aren't familiar with value-based care, you may have heard of the Oak Streets and the Devoteds and the Center Wells. I'm trying to think which other ones are out there. There's a ton of them out there. But the cool thing is that some of the technology companies are even adding those to the platforms this year, right? So we're going to be able to search for the value-based care providers this year, which will be great.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the value-based care is really just there to continuously take care of your clients, right? It's not a fee-for-service type of doctor where you go in, you pay them, you know, $10 or $50 or whatever it is, right? And they're like, all right, yeah, you look fine, get out. These people are here because they get paid based on you being healthy. So the healthier you are, that's how they get paid. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure that you're walking out that door with everything you need, so you're not coming back in. And I think the value-based care model is awesome. I mean, I really think that's kind of the future, you know, where we're heading.
Yeah, and I've seen a variety of accessibility for the agents to the value-based care locations. Some of them are really good. They want agents there, which is great. And we try and get our agents to partner as much as possible with, because that's an amazing opportunity to network there at the value-based care facilities. So if you haven't done that already, definitely something you want to get involved in, because this is just really, the value-based care was growing. This year, we're seeing it's going to jump. It really is. Every carrier is talking about that model at the rollouts. It's going to be very big this year.
Well, not to mention, I mean, we are, you know, depressingly not going to be seeing a lot of agents in Walmart stores this year.
Big change, right? This year.
So I think the value-based care is going to be even more prominent for us and for agents in general, because that's going to be a place that everybody.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, things change, and we adapt, we overcome, and you know, we've done that for the last couple of years, starting with the pandemic and Zoom calls, and now recording calls, and some of the other stuff that, you know, we sort of just kind of push through and figure out as insurance agents. And this is just another way we got to adapt this year. But definitely retail is still, most of the carriers still have something with retail, whether it's CVS's with the Aetna, you got Kroger opportunities. There's plenty of them out there. You just have to ask and make yourself known that it's something you're still interested in.
Yeah. I mean, they're there. I mean, if you're not connected to your local broker for whichever carrier you really want to work with, you need to do that like yesterday.
Yes.
And you know, even some carriers, a lot of those local guys, that's who controls the marketing money, you know, and from a local level.
True.
You know, as well. So you got to make those network connections. It's important.
Big time of year. So all that's going on. You've got the certification starting. We get into plan info. All of that is starting. We talked about it on other podcasts, and I know we've been pushing the information out there, but the 2024 final rule when it comes to marketing, listen, that's in full effect at this point, as far as you better be on top of it, right? Now, the disclaimers and some of the changes, it really doesn't go into effect until 10/1 for the 2024 effective dates. But when we're talking about having your materials approved and ready to go for AEP, that needed to already start happening, right? If we need to go through the approval process and you haven't even put pen to paper and gotten that into us, probably not going to happen for AEP at this point, because it's really been slow. The process is a lot more daunting than it has been before. A lot of the rules have changed, where things such as using the Medicare card really not allowed very easily at this point, right? It's just not something that you're just going to throw out there if you haven't done it already. So you want to make sure that you understand the difference between marketing and communication when it comes to the 2024 rule, because that's really where it differentiates. Do you have to file it, marketing, or do you not have to file it, communication? So real quick on that, marketing is, do you have plan details, zero premium, dental, vision, hearing? Are you putting plan specific details on your marketing piece? If the answer is yes, you have to file it, right? If you haven't filed it, we probably want to adjust it to be communication, right? If you want to use it for AEP at this point. It's just the way it is. The process is, again, daunting. You have to go through the carriers, then CMS for approval.
And the carriers at this point are worse than CMS.
They are.
Because I feel like they know that, if they're going to take the time to do it, they want to make sure when it goes to CMS, it's going to get approved 100% of the time.
It's been really interesting. If you're looking to file something and you want to use United Healthcare, you want to use Humana, you want to use Cigna, you want to use Anthem, you want to use multiple carriers, whatever you're marketing, that piece has to go to all those carriers for approval. Now we've seen coming back, one carrier approves it, the other carrier wants a change. Okay, so now we have to make a change for that carrier. But what about that carrier that's already approved it? Yeah, that piece, after you make a change, has to go back to that carrier now. So now you're starting almost all over again. So that process is underway. And now the new language that carrier 2 wanted, what if carrier 1 doesn't like the change that you made? Now they're battling. You haven't even gotten to CMS yet for their approval. You can't get it through the carriers for approval. So we are highly suggesting, put it in bold letters, if we can use the pre-approved materials that the carriers are going to make available, for example, United Healthcare Toolkit.
Yep.
If we can use the pre-done materials, we're going to do that. That's the way to go.
I think you almost have to, especially at this point. Like, it's August next week.
Yes.
And I mean, it's taking way over 30 days to get things approved. Not to mention, then you have to plan on getting it printed. Where are you sending it? Who are you sending it to?
Right.
So there's a lot of crazy things that you.
Yeah, it's really out of control. So we're definitely, you're going to go marketing route and you want to personalize info, you're already under the gun. You may already be too late if you haven't started that. Communication, hey, send it to us. We want to make sure that we review it, make sure that it's compliant, but then you can go and you can use it for AEP, right? Keep it generic. Hey, are you turning 65? Let's attend an event, educational event, right? Yeah. Are you doing an educational versus sales event? Because the rules are changing there a little bit as well. Educational event, you're no longer going to be able to collect the scope of appointment. It's a big deal.
Huge deal.
Big deal.
Anyone I've talked to since that we've seen that change, I'm encouraging them to file a sales event. Even if you're doing Medicare 101 educational material, you should just file it as a sales event at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want leads.
And if you do that, remember there's extra rules. If it's a sales event, right? You're $15 ahead. Right now you're sort of, are you trying to serve lunch or dinner or do an event in that way? Really difficult to do a sales event. You're going to also try and do it as a lunch or a dinner event and follow some of those other rules. So a lot of different changes in the rules. You want to make sure that you have your conversation with your marketing and compliance, your sales team that you're working with to make sure that you're doing things the right way. You get everything ready to go up front, and then you can hit the ground running. Scopes, of course, newly back to the 48-hour rule, which is just great. So the 48-hour rule is back. Couple of exceptions.
Yeah,
the 48-hour rule, right?
Yeah, so the last 4 days of any enrollment period, IEP and SEP, whatever the case is, AEP, so the last few days of AEP fall within that same rules. It's good for a year, the scope of appointment, which can help you to a certain degree, especially if you don't meet right away with somebody. It's it's not doesn't expire that fast.
Yes.
But that change alone is. The 48-hour rule is tough.
Yeah, well, listen, again, got to roll with the punches a little bit here. So a couple of the exceptions, as we're talking about here, last 4 days. So somebody calls or sees you on the last day of AEP. Of course, waiting 48 hours is not going to work in that situation.
Yeah.
You can help that person, right? But still take the scope, but you can still help that person. Somebody calls in to you. Right, they're considering that a walk-in. We have that in writing, just as though you have a brick and mortar storefront. Somebody comes and sees you. You clear your scope, but you can help them at that point. We've published all of the guidelines. We continually are updating. If there is clarification from CMS, our friends over at CMS clarify some things, we'll put it out there. But we have to make sure you're doing your scope, paying attention to the 48 hours. There are some exceptions, but let's make sure we're doing things the right way.
And an interesting kind of view on that rule came from Humana, which we also have in writing. And they're saying that if someone tells you specifically, I can't wait. I want to see you now, that you can also waive that rule. Now, just putting this out there, we're recording all our calls. You better make sure that that is recorded on a recorded line, just to cover yourself in case there's any sort of issues.
Yeah, so the recording rule is still in effect, but we did get a clarification from CMS, which was great on the recording rule. So they said it has to be part of the sales and marketing call, part of the chain of enrollment. Does not have to be support related calls. Hey, I need a new ID card, right? That doesn't have to be recorded. They did clarify that, which was good. So we will get clarifications here and there. We are actively still pushing to get clarifications on several different things that we haven't gotten yet. For example, worm transfer leads. I know some agents out there are using worm transfer leads. We are trying to get an official in writing clarification on that. As we do, we will continue to update all of our information. So more to come, I'm sure.
Well, and I know that we do, just so everyone knows, we do as much lobbying, and we're going to continue to lobby to hopefully maybe someday be pulled out of the TPMO regulations.
Right.
You never know. I mean, we're members of NABIP,
yes.
Which is the National Association of Insurance Business Professionals, formerly NAHU.
NAHU, right? Everybody remembers NAHU changes their name.
And, you know, they do a lot of lobbying on both our behalf and with us. So hopefully, you know, you never know. But as of right now, this is what we have to deal with.
Yeah, we're agents, advisors, we're all TPMOs, right? At the end of the day, lead companies, the carriers, we're all TPMOs. So everybody's responsible to make sure all this is being done the right way. You have to record your calls. You're a TPMO, part of the sales and marketing chain of enrollment. That's the process. Again, if you're meeting face-to-face, which I know a lot of face-to-face does happen, you don't have to record the face-to-face. If you are doing Zoom, some other variation of Zoom, whatever that may be, Google Meet, Google, the Microsoft platforms and everything else,
Teams,
GoToMeeting, Teams, all considered telephonic. That has to be recorded, right? Meeting face-to-face, though, doesn't have to be recorded. So that's still in play. Our software companies, the Connectors, the platforms, the Sunfire platform, My Medicare Bot, they do not, they I should say, are continually updating all of their stuff. They've actually changed some of their language. Now it says about the 48-hour for the scope, for example, on there. They were trying to remind everybody to follow all the rules. Just a ton of stuff, but we'll get used to it. We're in year 2, right?
Yeah. Well, Connector too. We saw they're updating the disclaimer as well.
Yes.
That will actually show you, I represent this many companies. That rule was going to be way worse, right? When they initially announced that, they were going to make you say the names of every company.
Could you imagine that? I represent United Healthcare, Anthem, Cigna, Devoted, Molina. Name 10 other ones out there.
If you're in Florida Blue, you have to name everything that you represent.
Planet Blue Cross, so many care partners, so many variants out there, but they don't have to now, right? We kind of got that taken away, but you still have to, be aware of the disclaimer, be aware of what's available in the area. Connector and Sunfire are both going to have it available. So when you put in a zip code, it's going to tell you how many plans you are licensed to sell in that area, which is going to be very helpful.
Yeah.
Right. Pay attention to that.
Yeah, because once again, make sure you're recording everything. Make sure you say it within that first minute. And they also added ship. So you do have, that was another area at the end of the disclaimer. The disclaimer is not as bad as, I think it was a culture shock last year. Now that we've all kind of just become accustomed to it, I know when we both sell, when I tell someone, I'm like, look, before our next call, just letting you know, I got to say this disclaimer. It's required by the government. Don't be afraid. Now, if you're not okay with it, we could, work something out and find a different way to do it. And most people, if you're, just kind of breaking the ice a little bit, you're fine.
Yeah, it's all part of it. It's challenging in some respects, but we're adapting, so it should be good. We did talk a little bit about the IE SNP in the beginning as we started here today, but it's really taking off. It's a huge opportunity. So we definitely want to make sure that we get the trainings done because we're talking a lot about the trainings. It is a separate training. We just want to make sure everybody is aware. If you're doing your SNP training with United Healthcare, you also have to do the IE SNP training with United Healthcare, right? So yeah. Both have to be done. Just make sure you get that loaded and taken care of because it's a huge opportunity. We're going to do another podcast on that specifically because there's enough content there, but it is really just an unbelievable selling opportunity. It's available to be sold now. I mean, you could be selling it today, right? It's a 5-star plan everywhere but
North Carolina and Wisconsin,
right?
Yeah.
So 5-star plan everywhere else can be sold. So wide open. We'll get more into that at another time. But marketing, get on it. Certifications, make sure you're getting on it. If you need help, ask, right? We're running around. That doesn't mean we don't have staff here to help. And if you're not working specifically with Pinnacle today, I'm sure you have a resource to make sure that you are asking for assistance. If you do not have a resource through your current upline, then you should probably consider working with Pinnacle. Yeah. But yeah, there's just too much going on out there. There's too many moving parts. You definitely need some support to get all this taken care of. A lot of stuff going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, you lose track and before you know it, it's here.
Yes.
You have to start thinking about, well, what supplies do I need, right? And once you figure out what, companies are going to have the plans you're going to sell this year, which, at this point, over the next 2 weeks, we'll probably have most of the major companies.
Yes, absolutely.
So then you're going to need to really figure out, all right, well, where am I marketing? Okay, I need to order these books, right? You need to start doing all that. Like, think about that. Yeah.
Today. I know it's summer and it's technically sort of vacation time, right? But it's not really.
You seasoned agents listening to this on, the beach of Punta Cana right now. You still need to order your materials.
Make sure you're bringing your laptop because there's a lot going on for sure. But listen, we're here to help as much or as little as you need. If you've been doing this for a while, I know you can probably get through a lot of this on your own. We're going to continually update as we go along the process here, but make sure that you are asking questions if you're not sure. Carrier resources, I think they're going to get definitely beefed up this year. We want to push to take a look at as much of what they have available and approved to sell, whether it's a permission to contact type information, lead generation, letters that you can send out to your clients saying, hey, another AEP, you got to make sure that you're reaching out to me. So all of that, I know the carriers do a pretty good job at getting that, and they're definitely going to have more of that available this year. This way you don't have to go through this daunting process.
Daunting is daunting. It's if there was a worse word for daunting, we would use that.
We won't say it on the podcast, but we'll use daunting process. It can definitely be daunting and cumbersome.
Yeah.
So make sure we're on top of all of that. And then on the trainings, Rob loves it. Trainings all day, every day. Please ask for help if you need it. We are here to help you.
Yeah, if you need help, my extension here is 771. If you're not with us, feel free to give me a call. If you just want to talk and you want to talk certs and tips and tricks. I mean, I got it all. I've been doing it now for over 8 years, and I think people they don't realize just how much I don't even need to read the questions anymore for half of these tests, and I can fly right through.
When I usually do my AHIP, I usually recognize that it's sort of the same names that they use, right? In different scenarios, right? It's interesting, but whatever. It's a good deal.
But really, at the end of the day, we're here to help you, whether it's marketing, communications, certifications, sales. We even talk about sales for the most part, right? But we have our whole sales staff here. We have our whole support staff. I mean, you name it, we got it here. And if you're not with us and you're working with another brokerage, you got to make sure you're putting their feet to the fire and making sure that they're doing what they need to help you prepare.
Absolutely, 100%. No, but I think we're going to end it there. A lot to talk about, but if you need assistance, reach out to us. But this is going to end our episode. This is our pre-AEP. We'll hold our pre-AEP here soon, and as we get closer, I'm sure on the next podcast. But Rob, we'll end it here today. Appreciate your time. Let's get back at it, and look forward to getting right into the season.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.